My work still. Hello, everybody. It is 7:33. We're joining here for the Public and Legislative Affairs Committee, the board. I'm Sarah Lentz, pronouns are she, hers. I'm chair of the board and chair of this committee. We also have board member Sawtelle and board member Ali. We have Superintendent Scallon, and we have Dr. Grace Valenzuela with us here tonight. Our primary topic tonight is to start to weigh in on some bills. So if people remember, to just one short week ago, we went over the bill tracker to understand how it works, how to find out more information about bills, and promised to come back today to start looking at bills that fall into any of our 4 legislative priorities, which are looking at curriculum, looking at school funding, school construction, and then human rights and student protections. So we're going to be looking at bills tonight in those topics to decide if this committee has a position on them, and if there is any action that we already know that we want to take on these bills, or if we want to just track them as the session opens up in the new year. So that's what we're going to try to do tonight. And we will be taking votes on each of those things. So what our position is, and then what action we want to take, just to make sure we have a clean record of how we're supporting these bills. So with that, any questions before we get started? Okay. I'm going to pull up our tracker. Okay. So you'll see here, just making sure my screen is it's not shared yet, is it? Okay, there it is. So I have coded these by priority and then sorted them. So we have our first bill that we'll look at tonight is an act to allow municipalities to limit nonprofit property tax exemptions. So this bill, basically, if we go over here to the summary, it provides a municipality the power to limit the amount of property tax exemption given to a nonprofit. So right now in the state of Maine, all nonprofits are tax exempt, and this bill would kind of give each city the power to change that based on the needs of their city. One of the biggest arguments, if you looked in the testimony, was that, you know, big nonprofits do use municipal services a lot, and then they don't contribute to the covering of those. But then the way the bill is written would kind of like is an umbrella for all nonprofits. So the people that gave testimony against it are worried that small nonprofits would lose their tax exempt status, which then eats into their budget and operating expenses. So I would just see kind of like in this committee position, as a reminder, we have the opportunity to support, oppose, no position, just kind of blank as we watch it, or that we need more information on the bill. So I'm curious where folks are. Yes, Superintendent Scallon, go ahead.
Sorry, and just for clarity, just to make sure my understanding was the same when I read the bill. It is specifically not about their nonprofit status, but it is about their property tax being that they're not taxed on their properties because of their nonprofit status. So it's specifically focused on property that they own. And in Portland, large nonprofits such as Maine Health, University of Southern Maine, some private schools have fairly large footprints and don't have tax. And so I think it's about specifically property. But one of the things is it'd be interesting to talk to the city about this one as the city has often had conversations around, or recently around, pilots. So payments in lieu of taxes, and whether or not this would be in alignment.
Yeah, so we can also make a notes column here. Oh, that's not filtered. I'll just add a comment. Thoughts or questions from folks?
Yeah, so are there any federal laws regulating this?
Say that again.
Are there any federal laws regulating this?
I don't know the answer to that.
Because I thought they were tax exempt from federal.
Yeah, we can certainly follow up, and we can ask the city and see what they think. So let's add an option that says coordinate with the city.
My question is always sort of in the practice, like who makes that decision?
Yeah, my guess is it would be the city council, but I don't know that for sure.
And that seems to be open then to political,
Correct. And that's kind of like my concern with this bill, is that because it doesn't have carve outs for small nonprofits, like I just think it could probably likely be weaponized in ways that are not helpful. Like I think if there were categories of different exemptions, that it would make a lot more sense. But as it's currently written, I'm hesitant to give any support to it. But I'm also just happy to bring this to the legislative committee on the city side and see kind of how they're approaching it and report back. Yeah, board member Ali, go ahead.
Jane, thank you for stating that. Once I looked at the sponsors of the bill, they're all Republican, and I'm a very fair person. I like to look at what the mentality is, but yeah, it could be weaponized, right? So that's a big thing. So I don't know. Yeah, that was the odd in the first place. I was like, what? But now I think I can see the reason.
Yeah, and I think in this also political climate, like, could it be weaponized based on the topic of the nonprofit's business? I don't know that, but so it just seems like that there's a lot of things around this bill that make me nervous. I think the idea of trying to get more property tax contributions is great, but I'm not sure that this bill does that. So I think I'd probably make a motion at this moment to coordinate with the city on this bill and then come back for more information. Is there a second? I see board member Sawtell. All those in favor? Is that your hand up? Board member Ali?
Yeah, that's my yellow
Okay.
hand right there.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so we'll coordinate with the city and circle back. And I'll just mark this as continue to track right now. So the next bill that's up is 653, which was an act to allow teachers to qualify for overtime pay. I'll go over to the summary. There's an amendment. The majority of the report adds provisions that exclude teachers to be exempt from overtime, or to exemption to entitlement to paid overtime. Do people have thoughts about this bill? Yes, Superintendent Scallon.
Keep forgetting that I'm muted. The provision that teachers would get paid overtime could cause significant challenges to our financial system, as well as just how we operate as a district and how every district operates. Teachers are considered professionals and treated as professionals, and so they don't have a defined day, as a simple example.
Yeah.
But they also typically don't run significantly over 8 hours within the school building. But then how do you consider and compensate for a teacher who goes home and does planning? And so I think that instead of thinking of it as overtime, what we should do and encourage the legislature to think about is that pay is captured within the collective bargaining agreement, and is a way that we recognize the total work, even if we think, as we do, that they should get paid even more. But I just have a significant concern about the logistics and what it would mean for the professionalism if teachers were paid overtime.
Yeah, I hear all that. Board Member Sawtelle?
Yes, and it takes some people a lot longer to do some things than others. And I don't think teachers' work
Mm,
can necessarily be measured in the amount of time. But yeah, it varies widely, and beginning teachers, generally new teachers put in a lot more time than seasoned teachers. We roll out lesson plans that have been successful in the past and tweak them for a new audience and move on ahead. It's I found the bill almost insulting. Like I remember years ago actually being in a meeting with a principal and he was trying to make a point and he set up this whole dramatic thing, but it was weird. But anyway, the gist of it was that teachers are not hourly employees, and that's part of the work, is that it takes the amount of time it takes.
Thank you, Board Member Sawtelle. Board Member Ali, did you have something you wanted to add? Yeah.
Jane said it. It's not an hourly position. Hourly is when you're doing physical work and things like that. When it's this type of work, it's mostly salary. So just that makes sense.
Yeah, and I do like, I trust the legislature, but it does seem like this would be like in conflict with federal law and the ways that we like categorize employees. No, maybe. Okay, so I'm hearing from the committee here that perhaps a movement to oppose makes sense. So I'll move to oppose this bill. Is there a second? Board Member Ali, all those in favor? Okay, that's unanimous. So we're going to move to oppose. And with that opposition, do people feel like we should take an action on that? And potential actions could be writing a testimony, in-person testimony, no action, or just continue to track. Does anybody have a strong opinion on that?
Real
Board
quick,
Member Ali? Yeah.
yeah, I just want to, if it's against federal like law, then it doesn't really matter. I think that we could just put it on that. So, but if it isn't, then I would still. It just doesn't make sense, So
Yeah, and obviously I'm not a lawyer, but I don't know. So I can't claim it one way or the other, but it is concerning to me for that reason. Is anybody here feel like and also Superintendent Scallon and Dr. Valenzuela, feel free to weigh in on this. You won't have a vote, but would love to hear your opinions. Yeah, Board Member Sawtelle.
I'd be interested to hear what Carrie Dowdy has to say. It could be an opportunity for the board and the union to work together on some communication about that.
So, Board Member Sawtelle, this isn't directly in response. The MEA has taken a position in favor of the bill and supporting it. And my gut, and again, I'm not a lawyer, but my gut is why this would not skirt overtime federal law is because federal law dictates who's required to be offered overtime.
Got it.
And I think this is saying that additional people can qualify.
Got it. Well, I might make a motion at this moment to just continue to track this bill and see what happens as we get into the session. Would there be a second on that? Beautiful. I saw both of you seconded. All those in favor of just continuing to track this? Great. All right. Up next, We have an act to permanently fund 55% of the state's share of education by establishing a tax on incomes of more than $1 million. So we've got a big bunch of supporters here on this bill. Oh, what was that? Did I hear somebody? This is an amendment to a previous bill. It talks about the, yeah, just the levels of tax here. Any thoughts, or is there more information that we need to know on this bill? Yes, Board Member Sawtelle.
I mean, it seems like a no-brainer to me, but I don't make anywhere near $1 million. Was there anywhere, and I should have checked, but I didn't. Was there anywhere on the bill where there was some estimate of how much that would be statewide?
Good question. I don't know. I'm trying to just add a note column here. Let's just have a look. This is where it gets tricky when we don't have our own lobbyist. Well, so this is the fiscal note that's attached to it. I feel like this might be a question for Robbie to just ask to make sure that we're interpreting a fiscal note correctly, as I'm not an expert in this, but I don't know. Anybody here is. So it includes an allocation of $20 million and then $64 million.
Yeah, this
from
doesn't make
income
sense.
tax.
I
Yeah.
don't, yeah, because it says something about decreasing, so.
Mhm. Okay,
And I
so
think,
yeah, go ahead.
sorry, I think it'll vary because, like, say someone made $1 million last year, then probably, and if they don't make $1 million this year, and other things like when people moving, I mean, they're tax exempt off a lot of things, right? Like, obviously you can get write-offs and stuff like that for millionaires and billionaires. But yeah, I think where else we're gonna get the money, right?
Well, hold on one second. I just want to look at one other thing. Okay, so we've seen kind of like the House and the Senate ought to pass as amended. Well, okay, let me just look at the testimony really quickly here. Interesting. I mean, I feel like because I feel like we don't know enough about this bill and we should find out more information. That's kind of where I'm landing, but I'm happy to defer to other folks. Thoughts?
I'm a non-voting, but happy to
Yes.
be here, member. And my general thought is that if the state is truly going to meet 55% of the real cost
Yeah.
of education, that there will need to be additional funding streams identified. And so I don't think we have any tax experts within our general capacity, right? And so it may be about talking to the city again in partnership with this to see if increasing the taxable income on millionaires has a downstream negative impact
Yeah.
on any revenue that they get because it lowers their overall income that's taxable. But I would say that in general, our policy would be to be in favor of something that increases the amount of funding available for education, whether it's a millionaire's tax or another stream.
Yep. That sounds right to me. So I would make a motion to coordinate with the city on this one to get more information from them and then circle back. Is there a second? Thank you, Board Member Sawtelle. And then all those in favor? Great, so that's unanimous. Yeah. Superintendent, if you are able to take notes anywhere in this, that would be helpful. I feel like I'm not doing a great job of trying to manage note taking and talking at the same time. And if you can get rid of that filter in column C and add notes there, that'd be great, but we can also do that later. Okay, up next, we've got a school construction bill, which is an act to authorize a general fund bond issue to create the school capital improvement fund. So this again is, it's got a good group of, and by good, I mean just there's a lot of them in number. I think sometimes when you see a bill that has a lot of sponsors, then it means that there's generally a lot of support. So that's what I mean by good. No reflection on who they are or where they're governing. So this would create a general fund bond issue to create a school capital improvement fund. Fund would be available to any school district subject to eligibility criteria and for any school facility to be renovated or replaced. Funds would be available to school districts on a one-to-one matching basis. I feel like this would be helpful. Right now, the funding pathways that we have for school construction are super limited. So I think that having a position on this makes sense to support it. But Superintendent, I know that you've been a lot more involved in the process so far on the two different pathways. So I would also just love to hear what you think.
My concern would only be about the one-to-one.
Yeah.
Matching, and this right now is basically a placeholder in my mind for what comes out of the governor piece, the governor's committee. And so I think we'll see a lot more substance to it as we go through the legislative session.
Yeah, and just to remind folks, the governor put together a committee to look at school construction funding, and that committee has been meeting, but they haven't released any results or findings or recommendations yet. So then with that comment, then I might I don't know, what do folks think? Keep watching? Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to make a move to just continue to track this bill. Second, thank you, Board Member Ali. I think that was the second.
Yeah.
And then all those in favor, we're just going to track it. Great. This act to establish procedures for school construction, we know that's a placeholder. We got clarity on that last board meeting, so we're not going to spend time to talk about that right now. An act to require, oh, these are not priority, so we're going to skip past these. Apologies. So we're going to go down here to our human rights and student protections. So we're looking at bill number 127, an act to strengthen legislative oversight of government agencies and programs by reaffirming the legislators' access to confidential records. We'll go over to the summary of this. So this bill provides the Government Oversight Committee may receive information and records that are privileged and confidential, and that the information in those records are exempt from public disclosure. This bill ended up on this list because of just kind of like what we're seeing with the Maine Principals Association and trans athletes and Title IX kind of attacks. So anything around student information feels pretty important to track. Again, we see a big list, and it looks like bipartisan or tripartisan support here on this bill. But I don't know a ton about it. Any thoughts from folks?
I was curious about how it differs from what current policy is for them. But I do really like Craig Hickman, so if he's the one who's proposing it, sponsoring it or whatever, that's a plus for me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I agree, but the only thing I would is kind of weird of is the legislature's access to confidential records. So reaffirming that, so we're gonna make it more accessible to the legislature.
Yeah. Let's maybe just look at a little bit of testimony if it's in here. We'll get a little bit more information. Let's see what Craig Hickman had to say. The purpose is to wield power to conduct oversight of the executive branch.
Okay, I would say yes to that.
I know I'm scrolling fast, but folks can get there on their own if they want to as well.
It appears that it's addressing a specific loophole or gap in information that was inadvertently created.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering if the change wasn't so much their access to the information, but whether or not it has to be made publicly available that they saw that information. It was the second part of the bill that made more sense to me.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. And I think that it's addressed right here in section 3 is like the idea that they shouldn't have to make it public if they're elected officials. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to just flip back here for a second. So we have, does anyone have a motion here about what they'd like to do for this bill?
Continue to follow.
Continue to follow.
Yep.
Yeah. So it sounds like, was that a motion? Board Member Ali? I'll second it.
Thank you.
Yep. All those in favor? Just continue to track. Great. And then we have a couple of different Wabanaki sovereignty bills that are here. And I don't know, although I should, which, if there's one that is more popular than the other. So it looks like the first one is just to restore the rights, and then the second one is a bigger kind of change, I believe. I think maybe it might be helpful to just talk about these both as like a category of bill and how we might want to approach giving support for Wabanaki sovereignty. I'm curious how people feel about taking action around those bills.
Mine was more that it made me wonder if then we would expand our Wabanaki studies, and I'm very mindful of what the students at Casco Bay told us about that, and how little they got from it. That I found that really kind of disturbing.
I don't, I think for folks at home, some students that we have heard from said that they felt like the same thing was taught in several years. I would say that that is like an anomaly to what I've heard about the Wabanaki Studies program. So I think I don't think that that is the singular story about students' experiences with it. And then separately, like I don't think that these bills would then expand anything around Wabanaki studies. It would just be like endorsing that as a district, we believe that Wabanaki Nation should have sovereignty. So I think we can separate the two, at least for now. Board Member Ali, do you have thoughts about this?
Yeah, I'm just in support of both of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it would be helpful to show support as well on both of these bills. So I'll make a motion to support both 391 and 395, seconded by Board Member Ali. Okay, then all those in favor to support. Great. Okay, so then okay. And does anyone have any specific action that they feel like we should take on these bills? I would propose that we continue to track them a little bit longer, but potentially provide a written testimony about, the connection from our Wabanaki curriculum to these bills and how they are connected. But that's kind of where I am on these. Does anybody else have thoughts? Nope. So then I'm gonna move to continue to track on both of these bills. Is there a second? Thank you, Board Member Sawtelle. All those in favor? Great. All right. An act to protect the human rights of individuals in the state. That's a placeholder, I believe. Let's just double check. Yes. So we'll skip that for now. This act to create a separate Department of Child and Family Services. That again has a bipartisan supporters here. It would create a new Department of Child and Family Services and transfers the functions of the Department of Health and Human Services that relate to child and family and child welfare to that new department. I think that this is in response to kind of some of the horror stories that we've seen coming out in terms of child support services across the state. I don't know if I necessarily have an opinion on this, but I do think that it's important to follow and just know what's going on with it. But I don't know if either of you have or any of you have a opinion.
No opinion, but like I did hear about the horror stories, and I had a bill for DHHS as well. So I think it may be a good idea that they're trying to do something else.
Yeah.
And also since we're expanding as a state, we're getting larger.
Yeah. Yeah. Board Member Sawtelle, do you have any thoughts on where you want to be on this?
No, I'm just pleased that someone's paying attention to that and that it seems to make it more of a priority by making it its own department.
Yeah,
I have a couple friends who have worked for Child and Family Services over the years, and
it's hard.
it's often overlooked.
Yeah. Yeah. So then I would make a motion to have no position on this bill for right now, but continue to track it. Is there a second? Thank you, Board Member Ali. All those in favor? Great. All right. An act regarding the inclusion of racial and other demographic data from state agencies into the legislative process. It's LD 590 by Rachel Ross, or Rachel Talbot Ross. Bill requires nonpartisan legislative staff to collect and assemble racial and other demographic data before joint standing or select committees of the legislature. I definitely support this. Board Member Ali?
Same.
Yeah, and I am assuming that this would probably be part of the permanent commission's work. But I feel like this is a huge part of the legislative process that is left out at the moment. So I would support this. I think it could also be just like incredibly helpful to use this lens in education funding in a way that it's not right now.
It's weird. I've never really seen a bill go this far and only have one name on it. With only Rachel, but maybe Rachel's purposely doing it and saying that she just wants to, like, maybe it's gonna fly and everyone's gonna say yes. So it's just something I just picked up.
Yeah, no, that's a good tip. So I would move to support this bill and just continue to track. Great, Board Member Sawtelle. Then all those in favor? I think that's everybody. Great. An act to protect the children of Maine. That's another placeholder for now. An act to defend the rights of LGBTQ plus persons in the state. I believe that that is a placeholder, but let me just double check. Yep. Get rid of some tabs so my computer does not die. An act to amend the Maine Human Rights Act to provide additional remedies for educational discrimination. I do not know very much about this bill. Got a lot of Democratic support. It modifies to allow a court to award compensatory damages in cases of intentional educational discrimination. Include damages for loss of education, loss of educational opportunity, past and future. I don't even know how to say that word. Emotional pain, suffering, inconvenience, mental anguish, loss of enjoyment of life, or other losses.
Yes.
You support this bill?
Yeah, I support it because it gives the consequence to some type of just like action, whether in discriminatory action, it can be disability, it can be anything like that. And yeah, so then there's a response to it. If you're obviously okay, I can't talk about that. If you're obviously like dealing with something and you're trying to go to work and stuff like that, and you can't get to work, and there's compensation issues because of specific things, and that is due to you being trans or, religion or whatever it is, and you lost money. Like if you sue them or you make a complaint and things like that, that can be included. So.
Yep. Board Member Sawtelle, do you have any thoughts?
I'm just looking at my notes. It seems to me that would be awfully hard to prove intentional educational discrimination, but that would be up to the lawyers who are trying that case, I guess.
Yeah.
It's always going to be hard to prove when some intentions are like that, but it's usually based on consistency, and then like they look at other individuals in their same, whether it's other students or other yeah, if that's happening to them and things like that, and what's the pattern. So it's when doing the data equity work, that's pretty much what they look at,
mm,
or any messages or the FOIA them, anything like that.
mhm. I feel like in principle, I support this bill, but I feel like I need to research a little bit more on this one to see like what the what's the reason that this isn't being supported, and I just feel like I need more information on this bill. But I'm also happy to follow the will of the committee on this. Board Member Sawtelle, do you have thoughts?
I think continuing to follow it's a good idea. Yes, on principle, of course. But in practice, I just think they may be getting ahead of themselves a bit.
Can you try to explain that, Jane?
Um, I I always worry with stuff like this that it can be used um in the opposite way in which it's intended.
Right.
And sometimes that makes me a little bit leery. A couple of these bills were like that. You know, I looked at to see who was sponsoring it or presenting it or whatever the term is, and that gave me some comfort. There were a lot of names there that I recognized and respected. Um, but I worried that other people would interpret that a different way, and um, I don't know. That just concerns me. But certainly, I mean, yes, anybody who's discriminating against students in any way, that they need to be held accountable, and it's great that there's some legislature to back that up.
If it's based on the how is mostly based on whether the judge or investigators and things like that. That's like how they'll figure out if it's true or not. Anything can be said is just like it has to go into full investigation. And and if it's not it, it's not it. Like the way I see these things, for example, like if I get blamed for anything, right? And I'm really intentionally not doing anything, and there really is no bias, there's not going to be consistency in the data and proven records and things like that. But if there is consistency and all that, they can prove it, right? When it's like unsure, then most of the time it's like a no, then, right? Is you have to prove your point. You have to prove your case. It has to be a factual case, because without that, it's a no. And that's anything. Even with suing, like when you're suing someone for based on something, you have to prove your case. And if there's a question about it, then because you're the one that's bringing it up, right? So there's no maybe, 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 especially when it comes to the law. So that's all I wanted to say on that.
Yeah, I mean, I do, looking at the testimony, it's interesting because MSBA is like one of the only negative testimony. They're, gave testimony against it because they're worried about the taxpayers having to pay the fees for whatever, damages are incurred. But everybody else is in support. So yeah, I think I probably will most likely support this as it continues to move through. But I think like right now, I'd like to just see if there's any more information we can get.
Here's an example of what I'm talking about. One of my colleagues at Portland High School worked in a school district where students were harassing her racially. And those students, had they been suspended, part of the issue was that there were no consequences for them, but had they been suspended, could then their parents sue the school for discriminating against them because they were racists.
In that case, I don't see how they can do that at all, because the reason why they're yeah, that wouldn't even hit court. The reason why they're suspended is because they are clearly making discriminatory like language, vulgar language. It doesn't matter what race they are, right? And even if they are all the same race when doing it against someone else, they're just suspended for that reason. To sue based on that, it's gonna make the case is not gonna stick. It's not gonna go anywhere.
So I would make a motion to continue to track this and try to get more information. Is there a second? Thank you, Board Member Sawtelle. All those in favor? Great. And just a reminder, any committee member can make a motion at any time. I don't have to be the only motion maker. Okay, we've got an act to protect workers in this state by clarifying the relationship of state and local law enforcement agencies with federal immigration authorities. So this is the one that we added last time that's still on the governor's desk. And I'm unsure if there's any action that we can take. Like, I don't know where we would take the action or what we would do. But this is a bill that I would 100% support. But I don't know where the rest of the committee is.
Yes, also 100% support.
100%. I just want to make sure we're not going to get in trouble. We're nonpartisan, right?
Well, the bill is just to, like, we're not going to get in trouble because we're saying that we would support this policy being changed in the ways that it's being proposed.
Okay, yeah, just as a municipality, because there is an option to say for nor against, but obviously in writing you're saying, yeah, we would love to go for this, but I mean, I don't know if we're.
Do you mean, what is your concern because it's on the governor's desk as opposed to still in the process, or?
No,
me.
I'm concerned as a school administration, like, are we allowed to actually, you know what, this is different. This is protection. So I would say yes. But yeah, there are questions that you if you're nonpartisan, like, we're speaking on behalf of the schools, right? So there's some times where we're just like, certain things may be touchy.
Yeah, no, and I think where I try to hold that line is I'm not going to support an individual or a party, but I look at the issues. So I think I think you're right to remind us of that lens, and I think that that's where we can land is looking at the issue itself and how it impacts our students. So I would make a motion to support this bill. Is there a second? Thank you, Board Member Ali. All those in favor? Okay, so we're unanimous on that. And I would like to make a note to talk to Robbie to see if there's any action that could be taken around this bill at this time. And I know, Dr. Valenzuela, you brought this bill up the last time, and I don't know if there's any action that you know of that would make sense at this point, other than just reaching directly out to the governor.
I think that's the approach.
Okay. Okay, so I think I will reach out to Robbie, and then next time we come back, we can just make a decision on any action that we might want to take on that bill. And then we've got 324, an act regarding funding for educational programs and activities. I think that's a placeholder. Oh, maybe not. I think it's still a placeholder, but let me check this amendment here. Oh, this feels like beyond my legislative knowledge.
Sarah, I think you clicked on the second one. click on the first one.
This one up here,
Nope, the first purple.
the first purple.
Yep.
Yeah, good call.
This is the language, just to like orient you.
second
And
one
then
was an
the
amendment.
second one is an amendment off of this, which also passed.
Great.
So, but it helps because it doesn't fully walk through it.
So with the resolve, the amendment appropriates funds to the Department of Education to continue the early literacy grant program and grant programming related to implementation of best practices for mathematics instructions. The amendment authorizes the department to partner with the National Foundation to maximize private resources. Is there any downside to this bill? Do we know?
So if you click on the
It's Michael Brennan.
amendment,
Yeah, let's go.
if you then click on the amendment, it looks like it gets amended from being $4 million or $5 million to being, I think, a study.
That's right. That's right. Okay, I remember this. Yeah. The amendment striking out an act regarding funding. Oh my gosh. Commissioner may raise and expend private funds. I don't see the change in the language here. Where am I missing it? Oh, here it authorizes the Commissioner of Education to raise and expend private funds to support a fund established for. No, that's not helpful. Do you know where I feel like I've read it in something that I was looking in here before. What is there? Grant programming. Okay, I feel like we need a little bit more information on this, unless someone else on this call knows more about this bill. Okay, so can we flag that to get some more info on? So I'll make a motion to yeah, go ahead.
Sarah, if you look at the fiscal note for the second amendment, what's happening here, I don't understand exactly how it applies to the actual practice, but it looks like it shifts it from what the original proposal was to have it be funded in the general fund to instead be a small amount of revenue to then allow for the fundraising of external funds. And so I think the spirit of doing this work is right. The question is, what does it mean from a funding end? And then from a practical end, because it looks like the funding gets stripped out.
Yeah, so this to me feels a little performative and probably not worth our time to take an active position on. So I think I'd probably just like move to say that we support it, but not have any action on it.
Yeah, no action. I just want to follow it though. It is Michael Brennan's, and he's from us. So.
Yep. So I'd enter a new motion to support and track. Yeah, thank you, Board Member Ali. So then all in favor of that. Okay. Thank you, Superintendent. Okay, how are we doing? All right, we're into curriculum. So we got an act regarding funding for educational programs and opportunities. Oh, we just did that one. So next up, we have 370, a resolve directing the Department of Education to collect data on secondary school mathematic requirements. Again, this is like around like I don't think it moves money or anything, but it does direct like a study around mathematics requirements.
Yeah, it's just mathematics. I think that it's interesting that they put this in, and is this is what, like, I used to live in Ohio, and Ohio has this, right? They have studies and data collect on math as well as reading and writing and things like that. So my question would only be like, why is it only math, right? no other subjects.
And I don't know if they've done, oh, Superintendent, go ahead.
Yes, I think this bill is specifically looking at collecting the data on what districts require for mathematics for graduation, as that is a local piece. And so looking at whether or not districts are requiring 2 courses, 3 courses, and it looks like it's intended to help push towards having districts require 3 credits of math instead of 2. I'll just note the fact that we already require 3 credits in the board policy on graduation requirements.
Yeah, so with that, I think it's, continue to track. I don't know if we need to have an opinion on this. So I'd make a motion to just continue to track.
I'll second it, but yeah, continue to track, and then we just don't support or not. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so all those in favor of just continuing to track on this one? Yeah.
Aye.
Okay, an act regarding driver education, which falls under our curriculum priority. I don't remember if this is just a placeholder. It is just a placeholder right now, so we don't have to talk about it at this moment. Again, I'm just going to get rid of some tabs so my computer stays happy.
Does Portland schools offer driver education?
That's a good question. I don't think we do. I think you have to get it privately, right?
Any student I've ever worked with got it privately.
Huh.
Yeah,
Interesting.
privately.
Okay. Well, that'll be interesting to see if it gets any teeth. Resolve to establish a pilot program to expand intensive English language learner programs. That is LD 471. Yeah, we've got Yusuf on this as a sponsor, DECA, and Barine. So lots of people that are familiar with Portland. It's basically asks the Department of Labor and University of Maine system to establish a 2-year pilot program to expand intensive English language learner programs at University of Maine and University of Southern Maine. Dr. Valenzuela, have you heard anything about this bill or know of any reason we shouldn't support it?
I don't know of any reason we shouldn't support it.
Great. Board Member Ali?
I do. I think it's just a little excessive. It's just like they're already like, okay, if you come to America in when you're going to grade school, great, there's ESL. But if you come to America later on and you have to go into the University of Southern Maine or whatever, like there's already like prerequisites that you're required to do, but to enforce another 2-year like require that.
So this is like to help make more places where people can learn English. And that is like right now we have like 1,000-person waiting list at the adult ed program because people can't access those classes. So this is just about like
Okay.
people that are accessing English language classes, I believe.
Okay, yeah. So it's when it said required the Department of Education, Department of Labor for the 2-year. It's not requiring every student that is in the
No.
ELL. Okay, thank you. So there's an option to get. Okay, that's it. I
So
agree
basically,
then.
this is just like putting legislative support behind expanding opportunities
Yes.
for English language classes across the state.
Yep.
No, I'm glad you clarified for that. So I think that we should support and probably take some action. I would, yeah. Do people have an idea about what action that we should take on this?
Support just so we look good.
Well, okay, so then I'll move to support. All those in favor, or sorry, a second. Board Member Ali, all those in favor of supporting? Great.
Doesn't the community college system already offer this?
That's a great question. I think that they offer it to some level. Dr. Valenzuela, do you know that?
There are some offerings. I think the challenge here is that we have more students than they can take in at the moment. And so this, in my reading of it, it just looks to me like they want to offer more courses so that then they can attend to admitting students who need the help.
Yeah. I would move that we potentially provide written testimony based on the need that we're seeing in the district. If there is a second, I would take one.
Yeah, I guess if so we're not gonna write, or we are?
We are. I'm
Okay,
making a
yeah.
motion
Oh,
to
yeah,
provide
okay, cool.
written
May-
testimony.
Maybe the written testimony could also include also hopefully that it expands to other colleges and universities within the state, but
Great. So that's a second. All those in favor of written testimony? Great. So once we know when this will be taken up again, then we'll be able to time that out. That's kind of like the next layer of this, is figuring that out on the staff end, but we'll get there. An act to integrate Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander history into the statewide system of learning results. Yeah, we've got I think it's all Democratic. No, it's bipartisan, and Indigenous support. I would make a motion to support this bill. Yeah, Board Member Ali, is that a supporter?
yes.
Yeah, all those in favor of supporting? Okay, any specific action people want to take at this moment?
We can just support it. There's nothing else really we need to say.
Okay, so we could just continue to track it. I'll make a motion to just continue to track. Is there a second? Thank you, Board Member Sawtelle. Okay, so all in favor, there we go.
Oh, Grace, are you good with that decision? What do you think?
Is this one of those bills that are sitting on the desk of the governor as well?
It's carried over by the governor, but I don't know for sure that it's sitting on the desk. Hold on, let me look. I feel like that is still a little nebulous for me. Senate roll call. Ought to pass as amended. All right, 1 second. See if we can see it. Oh, it's held by the governor. You're
That's
right.
So I think that's where the work that needs to happen.
Yeah, okay.
Because this bill is largely similar to the one that they pass on African Americans. So this is it's the same, almost the same language. They just changed the who.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Grace, for flagging that. Yeah, so we'll just continue to track it and see. I'll ask Robbie also just around any other action besides just writing to Governor Mills. Let's see, the resolve directing the Department of Education to review personal finance course offerings in Maine schools and convene a working group of relevant stakeholders. This is another one that's being held by the governor. I don't have a strong opinion on this. This does not seem like our most pressing issue. While I do think that personal finance is important for young people, this is like one that I feel like I would be neither for or against.
Talking about personal finance and education?
Yes.
Yeah, hell yeah, I'm in full support. But things that are on the governor's desk, could we just like yeah, it's either support or against, but there's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah. Would someone like to make a motion around the position on this bill?
I'll make a motion to support this bill.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, all those in favor? All right, 2 out of 3, so that passes. Okay, this is okay, I think we're coming down the home stretch, everybody. I know daylight savings is rough, but we're getting there. I just want to double check that this is a placeholder. Yes. We'll just continue to track that. Okay, and so now we are out of bills that are related to our priorities. But we can still look through these if folks want to. If there's any that we want to flag for whatever reason. So there's a mentoring program. We'll just look at them as a group, and then if there's one that somebody wants to come back to make a formal position on, you can make a movement to or make a motion to do that. So this teacher mentoring program, best practices for de-escalation and behavior intervention, act to create the building opportunity through out of school time program, and act to establish an independent office of the child advocate, and affordability and early education, educator stability. Are there any of those that folks, yeah, superintendent?
There were a couple that were in the earlier category that got jumped
Oh,
because they were non-priority, I think, like 1892.
Yeah, the school construction. Does that actually, oh, you know, we skipped that because I thought it was a placeholder. Is it not a placeholder?
I'm
Is that
just
the one,
looking.
the cannabis bill one?
So it has language. It just didn't get acted on. I think it's waiting for
Yeah.
governor's committee as well.
Yep. Okay. Thank you for flagging that, Superintendent. Yeah. So I think that this is the one that has to do with like the cannabis tax. Gaming activity revenue, cannabis tax, lapsed balances in the general fund, tobacco tax, and federal funds. The bill requires school administrative unit to pay 25% of the total cost of a school construction project. I think we should support this.
25%?
25%, which is less than the other bill that we saw that was 1-for-1.
Okay.
I think we should try to get more information from Representative Brennan to see what would be helpful in terms of our any advocacy around this bill.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm trying to remember why I wrote this down, but there must be something in there that says the Commissioner of Education has the right to change the district's required percentage. So the 25% isn't necessarily set in stone,
Oh,
according to what I took notes on. That, of course, I cannot now remember because in my brain it's 9:43 and not 8:43. I like the fact that there are, requirements for school construction to be as green as possible, and I don't know if they were LEED certified or what, but that appealed to me.
What, the 1-for-1? The green? What do you mean by the green?
No, somewhere in this bill, it says, that buildings need to be built energy efficient and using, I don't know, I can't remember in the print.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. I mean, they're doing tons of grids on solar panels right now. There's like people all over the country inside of Maine, and other people parts of the country and other states.
Says the state shall pay at least 75% of the total cost. The annual debt service. School unit shall pay at least 25%. The commissioner may adjust the school administrative unit's percentage based on the school administrative unit's ability to pay. Huh. That's interesting. That's a bummer. That'll get us right back to the same place that we're at.
Right, it's a little open-ended there.
Okay, so I do think that this is one that it sounds like that we have support of, but also need to find out more information on. And okay, so I'm making a motion to support this. Is there a second? Okay,
Third.
Superintendent Scallon.
I don't know if I got in ahead of time. My recommendation would be to monitor this and to follow up with Brennan to understand that clause, because it's that clause that causes us such an issue around the EPS funding formula.
Yeah, okay.
And so my only recommendation is the spirit of increasing funding for school construction makes sense, increasing revenue streams for it makes sense. Being careful that we don't get ourselves painted into a spot where we can't access is the thing that concerns me.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if the intention behind that language was to even lower the percentage for districts that might not be able to afford, but I think we just need to like get that, amended to, as you said, not back ourselves into a box. So that, I mean, the motion didn't pass because we didn't call for a full vote. So I am happy to mark this as continue to track if there's a second for that. Thank you, Board Member Ali, and then all those in favor. Appreciate the input, Superintendent. Whew. Okay. So, hold on, I don't want to lose our. I just want to double check that we have gotten through everything here.
We haven't. There's two that were right below that I think were both ones that it may be worth discussing. One was around AED devices.
Oh yeah, that was not a priority.
Got you. Oh, could you just want to look at priority for a second?
That's what we started with. So now we can,
Yep.
if there's anything else that is not a priority that we wanted to come back to, we can. Do you have strong thoughts about AEDs at school-sponsored athletic events?
So we provide them at all of our events because all of
that
our
already?
athletic trainers have them. But away teams, home teams provide the athletic trainer. And so all of the big schools, for the most part, have athletic trainers and have that. There is a possibility that some of our sporting teams competing at away events would not have access to that.
Yeah. But also this is about creating a policy, not access.
Correct.
Which is a bummer. But I
And in
agree
theory,
a policy could force it, but. Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to have access to these devices 100%. They save $1 billion lives. I don't know if 1 billion is the right number, but yeah, there's hard evidence around that. Having them in public places saves lives. So I'd be happy to support it. Great. All those in favor? Great.
Can I add one more that I think we should monitor, but I don't understand yet enough about how it will impact CDS or when we take on those responsibilities, is
Yeah.
the act to support and sustain Maine's childcare workforce.
Oh, yeah.
Because just one piece around this is when we go into 3 and 4-year-old, we're providing related services for the most part. There may be a requirement about anybody who gets related services to also then get access to education. And so, and the fact is that we don't have enough early childhood providers,
Yeah.
and that directly impacts who has access and what it means for kindergarten readiness.
Yeah. And I think about like our partner sites as well, and like we need to make sure that they're able to stay in Portland. So I'm happy to continue to track this bill and see if there's an opportunity for action. Is there a second on that? Thank you, Board Member Sawtelle. And then all in favor? Great.
I did have one more that I feel like I need some
Sure.
context around. 858, an act to ensure behavioral and mental health services.
Oh, there it was.
I think
Go
I
ahead.
just don't understand it, and I didn't understand the when they were talking about school district size and varying amounts, and I don't know. I'm looking for context, I guess. Anytime something says grant funded, my antenna go up.
Board Member Sawtelle, I read this one and got really excited by the headline on it, right? Around providing funding and reimbursement for districts to provide
Right.
Mental health access. And then it looks like the total available is $100,000.
That's tiny.
And so I don't think it would actually positively impact us. That's not to say that the spirit is wrong, but unless I'm understanding it wrong or there's additional context, we're well north of $100,000.
The maximum you could get from this bill is $9,000 for our district, which doesn't feel
Yeah.
like the work in the grant management.
No, not at all.
Right. A district with more than 500 students would get the same amount of money that we would get, right? Yeah. So, okay.
No.
So that was my, that was something for me.
That
that
was
I'm just
good. I'm glad
What?
I'm glad we flagged it. Yeah, okay. Well, do you want to oppose that or just leave it as is?
I'm just asking because I didn't understand it.
I'm fine to just like let it float. I don't need to have an opinion on it. But I don't support it by any means. It's not worth the paper it's printed on to me. Yeah. All right. Just leaving it
Sorry.
as is unless somebody else has a motion. Okay.
Here's
Let's see
the
if
here's the
there's-
other one that I sort of flagged because I didn't understand. And again, I'm just looking for someone to explain it to me. 1098 about the length of the school day for some students. And it seemed like it would have some impact for us because we do have a number of students who have a modified school day.
So this is a resolve to review the use of abbreviated school days across the state. So it's like supporting a study of the school days.
For or against, I mean, they're probably doing it because they want to do other changes. So it's just a study that's required to do more work.
Board Member Sawtelle and Holly, just echo a little bit of what you just said. This is a practice that in a lot of districts or a lot of states is much more limited than it is in Maine. Like coming from Philadelphia, the idea of having students with IEPs on a modified day, it would be such a minute situation and almost never. Like I can't think of an example in my time in Philadelphia where that was allowed because of legal restrictions there. In Maine, it's a lot more permissive. And so you don't see a ton of kids on modified schedules, but you definitely see students with IEPs on modified schedules. And I think there's a question about whether or not that's actually providing them with FAPE. If they're, here goes for 7 hours and they go for 3 or 4, how that qualifies as FAPE. But in Maine, there seems to be a lot more flexibility around that. And so I think this is looking at that to determine how widespread an issue this is and whether there's a need for a legislative naming.
My question is, who put it in?
Let's see. We got over here. We got Rafferty, Moonen, a lot of people in the education committee. Solid
Wait,
teams across the board.
that's us.
Is this the wrong? No,
That's my district. Matt Moonen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh, the other Noonan. Sorry. Okay.
There's a Noonan and a Moonen.
You should end it with that. Mic drop. That was funny.
Sorry, everyone. It's daylight savings. Okay, so I think we should track this bill. I'm going to make a motion to do that. Could I have a second?
Aye.
Thank you. All those in favor? Let's do it.
Aye.
Great. And I'm gonna make a motion to end because it's very late on all of our brains. And we will continue to update this as we move through the session. I'm not superintendent.
Sorry, I don't want to be the one who stands between us and moving. Can you share a little bit about how you're thinking the next meeting goes, right? So we've identified some priorities, we've identified some bills. What would you recommend either for staff or for board members in preparation for the meeting on the 23rd?
Yes, thank you for that. I have a couple of ideas and then I'd love to hear from other board members. I think we should do a fuller review of the feedback that we've heard from the community sessions this fall, and remind me when the next meeting is. It's the 24th. So we should have finished most community sessions with the exception of the staff sessions that you're hosting, Superintendent. So we can do a fuller review of those sessions. And then I can't believe I'm saying this, but start to plot out next session or next semester after, kind of like how that overlaps with budget. Or is that something that you were already talking about in finance? Okay. And then the other thing that we kind of left floating in the last meeting was just around a plan around community advocacy and what that could look like. So maybe we could spend time on that in the next meeting, Dr. Valenzuela, if you feel like you will have something by then.
Yes.
Awesome. So then those 3 things. Board, any other committee member thoughts for the 24th?
No. Motion to adjourn.
Hold your horses. Okay, that sounds good to me. That sounds like a full meeting. And maybe we won't take the whole hour and a half, but that is okay. So I can follow up with Dr. Valenzuela and the superintendent as needed, but there's a motion to adjourn on the table as everyone is just falling asleep in this meeting. Is there a second?
You can be the second.
Yes. Okay. All those in favor? We are adjourned at 8:58 p.m. Thank you all very much. We'll see you tomorrow at the board meeting.